What's up, ghouls and goblins? Welcome to the very first edition, very first live broadcast of the Reely Scared podcast here on the Who Are They Movie Reels Network. If you've been following us or this network channel long enough, you might remember like a year ago, there was kind of an iteration of this show. It was just me in my bedroom, talking about horror movies and stuff, things I'm passionate about, things that are creepy. But I didn't really think it was that interesting and entertaining. So it dropped out, but they've caught me on the Real Talk program last couple of Sundays and having a great time on there, doing their live show. Appreciate Matt letting me on every week. Enjoyed that format so much, doing it live like that I thought, hey, let's try bringing back Reely Scared. Let's try to talk about things that scare us, things we enjoy, and not do it by myself. So I am, in fact, joined by my very good friend, Connor Breedlove. Here he is.
How's it going?
Woo!
Really happy to be on this.
I appreciate you coming on, putting your hat in the ring.
Of course.
Getting on board with this experiment, because it is an experiment. I have no idea what I'm doing.
We're gonna figure it out together.
There's a lot of controls in my hands here, and I've been figuring it out throughout the day. Thanks to Matt, mentioned him earlier, for taking the time out of his day yesterday to kind of go over it and give me a little tutorial. Trusting me with the keys to the city here, giving me all the tools necessary to get the show together. So thank you, Matt. Let's see. Wait, how do I do that? Oh, there we go. There we go. I just learned how to put somebody's comment on the screen. There's my number one ghoul right there. So yeah, welcome to Reely Scared. You tuned in. It's the very first one, so I appreciate you giving us a shot. We've got a couple good things to talk about today. I've even got, hold on, can I do it? Let's see, here it is. Boom, look at that. It's like a real
official.
show.
Yeah.
It's like a real show. It tells you what we're going to talk about today. And if you don't feel like reading, I'll also tell you what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go over, to kind of break the ice, we're going to go over our favorite horror films individually, Connor and I's. Kind of introduces us that way, I feel like. We're going to talk about some new headlines, release dates, trailers, things like that. And then we're going to move on to review a new film that we both watched called 1BR, or perhaps One Bedroom. I'm not sure how you're
I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
1BR sounds like some sort of weird robot or something, but we're going to talk about
it's Elon Musk's new kid. 1BR.
Of course. So yeah, we got a decent little show lined up, I think, today. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Figure out the tempo. So perhaps we'll start off. If you don't know who we are, if you haven't watched Real Talk, my name's Taylor. I guess you could say I'm an aspiring film writer. Connor and myself, actually, we met each other a few years ago, went to a film class together, and we made a little spooky short film a couple of years ago. It's 2016. Can you believe it was already 4 years ago?
It's hard disgusting to believe we made that 4 years ago.
It's disgusting. So he and I are both very interested in film, passionate about film, have worked in it or are looking to work in it. Connor, I know, is working on something right now. Not a spooky movie.
Surprisingly. Surprisingly. I'm surprised in myself for not making another horror film. Ultimately, that's what I want to do. I love horror. It's what I want to do. You know, working for like Blumhouse would be a dream come true.
I mean, it definitely seems possible. At the very least, you could sell a script to Blumhouse.
Oh, definitely.
And that's not a knock against Blumhouse or the people who have sold scripts, but
they're giving people a chance.
Right.
You know, up and comers, everything. They just, you know, if it can be made for cheap, they're in for it.
Exactly. We'll get to some Blumhouse chat for sure later. I feel like every episode we'll get to Blumhouse chat on this show.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you can't avoid them if you're interested in horror. But like I said, we'll go over our favorite horror movie individually, respectively, to kind of give you a feel for who we are and what our interests are. I'll start, kind of set the tempo. So my favorite horror film, I got a clue on my chest right here. I feel like it's almost a cliche answer to say that The Shining's your favorite horror movie, because I think a lot of people do say that. But it's just true for me. It affects me. As much as I love horror movies, it's sort of rare for me to actually be scared. They're entertaining, they're engaging for me, but it's rare that I'm actually genuinely frightened by it.
Yeah.
And since I saw The Shining for the first time many years ago, that one just affected me differently. That one just hit differently, as they say. I think it really taught me what I like in a horror movie, which isn't just loud and scary and frantic, but more of setting a tone. Because I feel like The Shining, it's not until it's like third act, Nicholson running around with an axe and busting doors down. That's when the subtlety goes away. But until then, I feel like it's a pretty subtle movie. It's more about setting a creepy atmosphere, which I think is an underrated feature for modern movies. I see it coming on back in a big way with things, especially like with A24 movies.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about, Hereditary. That one's gotten a lot of love as a modern horror movie, and that's one that I think of. Again, third act is the catharsis when it gets all wild and things are chasing you and it's scary. But until then, it's all tension, it's all suspense. Yeah. And I found that when I find movies like that, those are the ones that stick with me. Or something like The Witch. That's another one I've loved a lot in the past couple of years. Subtlety. It's a rare feature in horror. And that's not to say I only like subtle horror movies, because I like the nasty stuff too. I like to get a little nasty once in a while as well. But Shining has affected me differently. I think it's a brand of horror that works particularly well in me. Is like normal people, normal setting, and then one thing happens to let you know that it's not so normal after all. And Shining's like a house of cards in that way. As soon as the tension creeps in, it just keeps ramping and ramping and ramping until finally you get the big build and the catharsis at the end, instead of just, walking down the hallway, something jumps out and yells at you. Okay, yeah. Walk down another hallway, something yells at you. It's not predictable even to this day. So Shining is definitely one that I very much appreciate and still love to this day. It's the one I probably come back to, actually. I know people will go Michael Myers. Every Halloween I find Shining's what I come back to, because that's what makes me still feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
So is that what you would say like draws you to like a horror movie, is the more atmospheric, tension building horror film? Like if you would go, I mean, not in today's time, but like a few months ago, there was 2 horror movies out. One was a more like atmospheric horror, and then one was a jump scare kind of movie. Would you say you would pick that like atmospheric, like A24 elevated horror movie?
I would say so. If horror movies are coming out in theaters, or they're getting a little bit of buzz, no matter what, I'm going to check it out pretty much regardless. But if I'm going to pick one or the other, something I see that is a little more tension-based, a little more atmospheric, especially if it's in the trailer or promotional materials. I can't figure out what it's even about maybe right off the bat. It's just selling me a mood. That's always going to get me a lot more interested. I like stories and movies where I sit down and I know they're going to take me for a ride because I don't know where they're going to go. You know what I mean? Again, not to poo on it, but a Blumhouse movie, they're a little more conventional, a little more palatable. Mm-hmm. But again, like something like an A24 movie, or something smaller I might find on demand somewhere, that's going to sell me a mood. I did see you got the producer of 1BR just stopped by, or One Bedroom just stopped by. So hello. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
That's awesome.
We got a little bit left before we start talking about your movie, but that's awesome that you came by. So
thank you.
Good to see you, man. Spoiler alert, I enjoyed the movie. So I don't know if he's going to be here later. So I'll at least say while he's here, I enjoyed the movie. So thanks for coming by. But yes, something more atmospheric and tension based, definitely going to catch my interest more over something that's just like a fun jump scare type movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from in The Shining. How about you when it comes to types of horror? How do you feel, like, again, atmospheric, tension based versus?
Definitely like the atmospheric, like we mentioned Hereditary, Midsommar, um, The Witch, It Follows, all of those I really enjoy. My favorite horror movie though is actually Evil Dead. You can tell it's not very atmospheric, it's very off the walls, but it's just one of those I grew up with. It's one of the first horror movies I watched, and it's very low budget, very DIY kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Raimi. Um, his first movie, I think. I'm pretty sure his first movie,
I
but
believe so. At least his first feature.
yeah. But it's something I grew up with and have loved ever since. It scares me. I mean, some of it's very kind of like goofy, but there's some parts that actually scare me. I think the practical effects, that's something I love in horror, is when they use practical effects.
Yeah.
Because it seems more real. But yeah, I'll throw Evil Dead on whenever. And it's one of those rare movies that has a remake, and the remake's just as good.
I was going to ask, how do you think it compares next to the remake? Because that one is a little bit different.
Yeah, I love the remake just as much as I love the original. But just for sentimental values, the original is probably my favorite horror movie.
Right on. And that is, it's so classic in that it's so campy too. That original Evil Dead. It is scary, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's campy while still taking itself seriously enough to where it's not it's in on the joke, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, it doesn't sell itself short of the scares. When there's scares, they deliver. But when it wants to be campy, it's doing it in a smart way, which I think is very tricky when you're doing one of those campy horror movies. It's very tricky to actually land it and do it in a very smart way, and Evil Dead does that for sure.
How do you think it? How do you feel about Evil Dead 2? Because they're
Evil Dead 2 is
very close to being the same movie.
When I was growing up, Evil Dead 2 kind of confused me because like they run the recap at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's not at all what happened in the first movie.
Right.
Like they changed it up a little bit, but rewatching it as years went by, I was like, okay, I see what they're doing. That's maybe how he wanted it to play out. And I love the sequel. I love Army of Darkness. I think that one's great too.
So can I make a horror movie confession? I've never seen Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness is more camp than scare.
I know it's more famous even because that's where Ash gets the chainsaw hand.
The chainsaw, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen Army of Darkness. It's been on the list for years and years and years, and for some reason I've never come to it.
And it's got time travel in it. It goes back in time to like the medieval times. It's crazy, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
That whole series is just so fun.
Did you watch Ash versus the Evil Dead at all?
I watched the first season, but I heard I think there's 3 seasons. I've been meaning to watch them. I just never get around to it, but I plan on doing that because I heard Evil Dead 4 is actually, in the pipeline. Like they're actually going forward with that. Probably after Sam Raimi does, Doctor Strange, but
that's right. Yeah.
Bruce Campbell's finally signed on for it. He's down for it. So it sounds like that's coming out. So I'll probably watch all of Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Right, because assumedly, it's all canon, right?
Yeah, yeah. They said it would pick up like a year or 2 after the events of the TV show. So I'm definitely going to get around to watching all that.
Speaking of sequels and things, to kind of bring it back to The Shining, what did you think of Dr. Sleep?
Oh, I love Dr. Sleep. It's another one of those rare like sequels that are just, beautifully done. I think Mike Flanagan is one of the best up and coming like horror directors. He takes like a sequel and he just knocks it out of the park. Like Ouija, the first one was like this god awful like low rate horror movie, and then he comes in and takes it over, does Ouija Origin of Evil, and that movie was pretty scary. That one I remember being kind of shook up after watching it. There's some scary parts to that one, and he knocked that out of the park. The Haunting of his Netflix series, what was it? The Haunting of Hill House? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. Gerald's Game's really good.
Man,
I just love him.
Gerald's Game
so
has the distinct. I watch a lot of horror naturally. I would hope I do anyway, even if I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
All the Evil Dead stuff, Army of Darkness, but it has the distinction, Gerald's Game, of being one of the last time I can remember being truly squeamish during a horror movie. It takes a lot to really get me to kind of cringe and turn away, but without saying too much, the scene of her escaping.
Yeah.
Yuck, dude.
Yeah, it's a tough watch, and some people might not like it because it is kind of one of those slow build. Like it builds the tension. It takes place mostly in like a bedroom. Some people might not get past it, but it's worth it. He really builds that tension. He's really good at creating an atmosphere, and he has this distinct look to his films that I just love. And to bring it back to Dr. Sleep, I think what he did with that was fantastic. A lot of people might not want to stick around for that 3-hour runtime, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I wish it'd gotten more of a fair shake.
Yeah, definitely.
I think maybe some of it was in the marketing. And obviously the book's called Dr. Sleep, but I think the title maybe wasn't the best for a movie. I can't believe they didn't even just go like The Shining : Dr. Sleep, something like that, because a lot of power in branding these days, and especially
because they even did the poster. They they kind of called it back to the original poster with the yellow, and then Ewan McGregor looking through the door. Like they tied it all together. So why not put The Shining : Dr. Sleep? I didn't really get that.
I guess maybe they thought the imagery would be iconic enough that it'd get people on board and make them recognize what it was, because you get Danny going down the hall, and the carpeting's the same. It's the Overlook, room 237, and the twins and all of that. So I guess they thought this will work. And I will say, I thought it was really, obviously you had to do it. How could you not tie it back to the Kubrick movie? But I thought it did a good job of tying it back without needing to lean on it like a crutch and tell its own story. It wasn't just like, hey, remember The Shining? You get that in the last act with them walking through the Overlook and the ghost coming to life. But that part was even cool for me too. I was very impressed that you somehow managed. They made a good sequel to The Shining. It seems like you put something like that on the shelf and never touch it again.
Yeah.
But they somehow pulled it off. So I agree. Flanagan is definitely one of I would say the premier personalities right now in horror movies. So like Dr. Sleep a lot. Should we get into some news?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, let's hop into some news. Let's see if I got all my buttons lined up here correctly. I'll know what I'm doing. Let's see. What's this? Let's see. The only screen-induced cringe I can remember ever having was Charlie's most memorable scene in Hereditary. Yeah, that's true. That one.
Well, which one is this? Which one is he talking about? Because the one that made me like horrified was when he slams his head into the desk.
Oh, right, with Charlie, we're talking.
Oh, the kid. Okay, never mind.
Charlie's the little kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think we know what scene we're talking about.
Yeah, never mind.
And that one, I'll say that one did really mess me up, but not for the because you don't get it's not a very graphic scene, relatively speaking. It's just again the tension and the dread that's baked into it between, hitting the telephone pole, kid driving home, going to bed, mom waking up, finding out. All that time, you don't even see what really happened, but just the pit in my stomach.
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever squirmed in a movie theater as hard as I did watching Hereditary. That was just dread, and that's what I like. So I don't know what that says about me. That I'm like, I like movies that make.
That's what I love too. Like,
it's one thing to go but if I'm there like this the whole time, now you've made something very effective for me.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. We'll hop into our news here if I can pull this up. So very first we have I'll be quicker on the draw with this as we go, I hope. So first we have Spiral, the newest entry in the Saw franchise, regrettably getting pushed back to May 21st, 2021. We will no longer
Fine with me. Happy 27th birthday, baby. That's where I'll be.
Will no longer be opening the Book of Saw this year, unfortunately. I guess it was inevitable. I was a little almost surprised because, you know, horror movies, as we're seeing movies get delayed and pushed back to next year or taken off the shelf, and there's this whole we got into a little bit on Real Talk, obviously with the Trolls World Tour controversy. I didn't know we'd get to talk about Trolls so early on the horror podcast, but it's changing everything. But now with this controversy of, will movies go to theaters? Will they go straight to demand? Will they do both at the same time? And now theaters getting nervous. The mid-budget movies are what I'm worried about, you know, because I think studios and distributors, if they learn, oh, we stand to make more money on these cheaper movies by just sending them right to people's homes, we might see less of them in the theaters. So I've been a little nervous to see how that shakes out. But Saw, I mean, granted, it's Saw, so it's, as far as horror goes, pretty big tentpole franchise.
Yeah.
But them pushing it back says to me that, at least in this case, they're confident in its ability to perform on the big screen.
Yeah, they must believe in it. And you know, at first I was surprised they didn't push it to October, but then I thought, you know, Halloween just came off, you know, this new sequel that, you know, killed it. Like, it was well received, everybody loved it. It was a fantastic movie, you know. I loved what they did with it. So, you know, that one's coming off pretty hot. And so, you know, Saw, it's kind of burned the fan base over the past. I loved the Jigsaw. I really liked Jigsaw. But, you know, the past few ones, you know, fans didn't really connect to. So they kind of have to earn that trust back. And so I kind of get why they're avoiding that October Halloween slot. They kind of want to, you know, it might be a good, you know, summer popcorn flick. I think kind of going in a different direction with it, bringing in, you know, Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson. I think that's really smart. You know, bringing in someone that loves the franchise like Chris Rock. I had no idea about that until like he was talking about it. He's like, yeah, I love Saw. I love the whole series. That's
what has me interested in it. If they were just like, surprise, we're doing another Saw movie, it'd be like, all right, okay, because Jigsaw didn't really do much for me. Because it seemed like too soon after they had definitively said, like, we're done making Saw movies, and then like 3 or 4 years later, they're like, well, here's another one.
Yeah.
And now they're like, well, here's another one. So, you know, it wouldn't have meant much to me for them to announce this, but because they have somebody so outside of the genre, Chris Rock, of all people, at the heart of this movie, he worked on the script, did he?
Yeah. He worked on the script. He pitched it. He worked on the treatment. I think he has a writing credit on it. You know, he's like kind of like the creative force around this, and it worked with Halloween. Danny McBride, you know,
right,
and David Gordon Green came in and knocked that out of the park. So why can't it work for Saw with Chris Rock?
There's something to be said, the relationship that like comedy and horror seem to have with each other. When I think of somebody like Jordan Peele, who works in comedy his whole career, and now in a couple short years, he's the horror guy. He's like the premier guy in horror. So there's something about that. I guess if you know how to instill enough of a reaction in people to make them laugh, you can translate that to horror just as well and figure out how to scare people. So his role in it definitely catches my interest, and like having a star like Sam Jackson pop up in it. I mean, that isn't to say that Sam Jackson doesn't pop up in a lot of stuff as is, but Saw is not what I really think of as a movie stars franchise. So interesting that they got him in it. We don't have any news on Tobin Bell showing up. I would love to believe they have the restraint to not drag Jigsaw's rotting corpse out in front of the audience one more time and throw it up on the table and have to come up with some twist to justify how that character could be in it. The branding seems to imply that that won't be the case, and that we're going to get something similar but not exactly the same. Let's see here.
I'm very excited for Saint Maud. That's
Saint
one
Maud.
I'm like really waiting to hear like when that is going to come out, because I saw the trailers, seeing Invisible Man, which I loved.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that there, and I was like, I need to see this.
That's A24, isn't it?
Yeah.
A24 every time. Yeah, we get a lot of demon and possession movies, but this one seems to be an actual, like, I don't know if it's I guess Catholic, right? It's like
I think so, yeah.
Catholic
I don't know what to
demonic.
make of it, and I'm not gonna look at anything for it. I'm gonna go in blind.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a prequel.
Jigsaw was kind of a prequel. It was like a prequel / sequel.
Yeah, Jigsaw.
Spiral picks up, I think, like 5 years after the last one.
Yeah, because
3D or whatever it was.
Because it seems like the vibe is going to be something like, I don't know if it's going to be a copycat killer or something. Mm-hmm. I just hope it is truly original and isn't. I'm so tired of the Saw trope, like third act where the theme song kicks in, and then they spend 5 minutes of exposition
explaining everything.
Oh no! When you weren't looking, he was actually over here.
Yeah,
his buddy was on the phone, and it's just like, okay, we get it. Once that becomes predictable, then it's not really a twist anymore. It's just like, yeah, we're doing this. And then Connor, I know you watched The Wretched, didn't you?
Yeah, recently? I really liked The Wretched. The Wretched was really fun. It was kind of like Fright Night. Just with witches.
Love a good
like
witch.
A witch demon type thing. It's really good. I was surprised how good it was. You know, I saw, I think his name's Simon Barrett. Mm-hmm. Works with Adam Wingard quite often. I saw him mention it, and I was like, all right, I trust him. I like his movies. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Watched it, rented it, and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, we might have to do a proper talk about it at some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you would really like it. It's a surprisingly fun movie.
Yeah.
With some good scares.
I've been seeing mention of it just naturally all over the place, whether it's like YouTube reviews or headlines or people tweeting about it. So whenever that happens, I see enough buzz. I know it's something I probably should at least give a look.
Absolutely.
We do also have recently announced a new Hellraiser series being developed over at HBO. That's coming from David Gordon Green, who's doing the new Halloween films, the most recent one in 2018. And that's also Michael Dougherty, who's naturally another frequent horror personality. He did Trick or Treat, most recently did the newest Godzilla movie. So these are two people who are very in tune with modern horror. What do you think about Hellraiser in general? Have you seen a lot of those movies? Do you have much of an opinion?
I've seen like I'm pretty sure I've seen all of them. The last few, like there's one that was only like 76 minutes, and I was like, what is this? Watched it. You know, the last few have not been good.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
So it's ripe for kind of reimagining, kind of retooling it, bringing it to a new audience, pumping some new blood into it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, you know, what they do with it, especially the names behind it. It's a fantastic, like, couple names to be kind of shepherding it to the screens. I thought they were going to do a movie, because I remember like there was this big, yeah, absolutely. I remember there being like a headline about a new movie, and a bunch of people were like, why can't there be, you know, original horror anymore?
Right.
It's like, you know, remakes are going to happen. You know, people love these franchises, and they want to see another good one, like good entry into those franchises. So why not, you know, do another one, and give someone a chance to crack at that mythology. So
yeah,
I remember seeing that. I thought it was going to originally be a movie, so they might be kind of just going
I think
the series route.
I think there still is a movie coming out.
Okay.
So Hellraiser has kind of the weird distinction where it's not like your Freddy or your Jason or your Mike Myers, where like those movies were coming out for a couple of years and then they stopped, and then they get rebooted and then they stop, where it's like Hellraiser has just been going nonstop, kind of the same way that Chucky has, but it's, you know, they become direct to video, straight to DVD type movies. So they're not big budget. They don't get a lot of press. They're not theatrical releases. And it seems like the quality on those movies is, I've not watched, I definitely have not seen all the Hellraisers. I definitely have not really seen any of it since it became a straight to DVD series. So I can't speak to the quality of those, but I've not heard great things. I believe they are still making a new Hellraiser movie, but it's completely unrelated to the show. They've said as much as that it's not going to be like a one-to-one remake, so it's not going to be going through the beats of the first or the second movie. It's going to be, you know, a new story, a new setting or something like that, just based off the mythology of the Cenobites and Pinhead himself. So I'm looking forward to it. In the last couple of years, we've seen, you know, this wouldn't be the first horror movie that's been pulled apart and turned into a series. Thinking of something like Bates Motel, or I know there was like an Exorcist show, or there still might be. I'm not sure if that's still on the air, or I just got done watching the second season of Castle Rock. So, you know, that's a number of Stephen King movies and books being turned into a show. So there's definitely precedent for doing something like this. I think it's the first time that one of these horror, almost like rock star figures has got one, you know, one of these real tentpole figures. So, and it's HBO, you know, HBO more often than not does.
It's just another reason why I'm super excited for HBO Max. I'm so excited for that launch. It's going to be probably the streaming site or the streaming service that I visit the most. I think it's going to have everything really. So I'm excited for that. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that as well. Let's see here. I do have, so I just pulled this up. So there's been talk of, how do you like American Horror Story? Do you like it at all?
I do like it. I watch it every season. There's a few seasons I don't like. I really like 1984. You know, big
so
fan
that was
of
good.
80s. Yeah, I really liked it. I love slasher. I love, you know, specifically the 80s slasher films, and I think it was a really good, you know, homage to the 80s slasher flicks, and it was good. I liked it a lot.
Maybe I'll have to give that a chance. I haven't really followed American Horror Story since I think the third season, which was Coven. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which I know is actually one of the more popular seasons.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I'm the weird one who fell off in the middle of it.
See, that's what American Horror Story kind of, that's where some of the seasons lose me, is because they introduce a bunch of plot lines and then they're like, yeah, just forget about that. We're not going to revisit it at all. We're just going to forget about it. They do that a lot. They introduce all these plot lines. They will focus on one and bring that through. And you're like, well, what about those other ones? Those were really interesting. I don't like what you're doing with this one. They do that so much with a bunch of the seasons. So the seasons I like is when they, you know, pick a storyline. You know, they introduce maybe, you know, a subplot, follow it, you know, simultaneously, finish that one, and then continue, you know, the main plot. So the past few seasons, I think they've heard the criticism and they've done that. They've just followed one plot line, and completed it, and didn't introduce all this crazy stuff. So I'm a fan.
There is one plot line that just caught my eye today, apparently going into season 10. They still haven't really announced what it's going to be about, but there was something about, so they recently, or they announced the casting of Macaulay Culkin in this season.
Yeah, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I'm into it because, I mean, obviously we all grew up in Macaulay movies, like Home Alone and Pagemaster and stuff. I haven't really seen him act much as an adult. I know he has popped up here and there. But I've seen him become more of a public persona lately with the podcast, and he shows up a lot on Red Letter Media, which is a YouTube channel I'm a big fan of. So I was like, all right, you got my interest, bringing Culkin in. And then I saw this quote today from Ryan Murphy on how he landed in the show, and I just had to share this today. So he said, so I have this very, very great insane part, and I asked to speak to him, this is Macaulay Culkin, on the phone, and he said, okay. When I cast, I never let people read things. Usually I said, okay, here's the pitch. And I told him the character and I And I told him the character has crazy erotic sex with Kathy Bates and does other things. God. And he paused and he goes, "This sounds like the role I was born to play." And he signed up right then and there. So
I love it.
I just saw that. And I was like, that's too interesting for me not to share that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about yet, but Macaulay Culkin's going to have graphic erotic sex with Kathy Bates in American Horror Story.
Sign me up.
I mean, between you giving the series the thumbs up right now and that quote, I think I'm going to go check out season 10.
I'll give you some suggestions on, the good thing about it is you don't have to watch every season.
Right.
Some connect, especially the recent one, Apocalypse. That one tied in the first and third season. But that's really the only one that ties anything. Yeah, Party Monster was good. That was the last big, kind of notable movie I saw him in. But I'll give you some suggestions on some seasons that I really liked. Roanoke is the worst one. Don't ever watch that one. It's absolute dog shit. Here's a tidbit about me. I really wanted, the mythology around Roanoke really always intrigued me. And I really, for the longest time, wanted to make a Roanoke movie, like a Roanoke horror movie. Fucking Ryan Murphy beats me to it.
So
then shits all over it. It's bad. It's so awful.
Well, maybe you should take some comfort in his spin on Roanoke being garbage, because that means you could come in and do it justice.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I think I'm going to revisit the ideas I had for it and kind of come up with something.
Let's see what's going on. We've got producer Matt working in the background throwing this up. So, producer of 1BR. Alok, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Alok Mishra? If you're interested, I don't know. I guess Matt will work that out because I have no idea what I'm doing. So he'll help you out if you're interested in coming on. That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
Let's see. Something else, brand new news item. I think this came out today. Connor brought my attention to this one.
Oh, yeah. I know what's coming up. Yeah.
The new Kevin James thriller, Becky, released a trailer today. There he is. A new home invasion movie, it looks like, which is a subgenre of horror that I've enjoyed before. He's going to be playing the antagonist in it. This is not hero Kevin James we're looking at here. This is neo-Nazi Kevin James we're looking at here.
Fresh out of prison.
Yeah. So it's like, what was it, a family going to a vacation home, or they just moved to a new home?
I think it's like a vacation home, kind of like in the woods somewhere. Kevin James is a neo-Nazi, and he gets out and he has some friends, and they're looking for this key. No idea what it opens, but he's really looking for it, and he just terrorizes his family. And Becky finds the key, and he's holding this family hostage until Becky gives him the key, and she's not having it. It looks crazy. I saw the headline, Kevin James, an R-rated invasion thriller, and I'm like, what?
It's weird because I remember it after Uncut Gems, there was this weird call going around that Kevin James should have a dramatic leading role. And I guess people were just, I don't know if people clicked because of the Sandler connection. But I mean, I guess it's something that's been done before. Somebody who's a largely comedic actor transitioning to something a little heavier, like obviously Sandler. I'm also thinking Robin Williams or Jim Carrey. Jonah Hill. Yeah. He's definitely become a different role lately. But then I thought I'd also seen that Kevin James had said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay in funny movies or lighthearted movies. And then this comes out. Where the hell did this come from?
I think maybe Sandler was just like, listen, you kind of got to branch out. People will see you in a different light. They don't want to see the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I'm interested in Becky. I'm
very interested in Becky.
It's not going to get a theatrical run. I mean, a lot isn't right now. I don't know if that was slated to get any sort of limited theater release. I know it was acquired, but it looks like Redbox. I know. Yeah. Redbox gets exclusive movies now, as everyone does, to try to survive. But That wouldn't be the biggest vote of confidence for me, something being a Redbox exclusive, but this looks pretty good. You know, I'll rent this at the very least. I'll check this out.
Yeah, I saw a Redbox and I was like, oh god.
If you're
I was really hoping this was going to be something special, and then I watched the trailer and I was like, they didn't say anything about Nazis in the headline. Like, I see Kevin James with a giant swastika on the back of his head, and I'm like, all right, this is very different. I might be very interested in checking this out.
I'll sign up for Kevin James getting his Nazi treasure, whatever he's there for.
Yeah, I don't know what he needs the key for, but I'm gonna be checking out Becky to find out what that key opens up.
I don't know if I'll go to a Redbox. I don't know if it's worth putting my mask on and braving the public.
You can get Redbox streaming. You'll be able to stream it on Redbox.
There we go.
You just download the app. You can get it on your Roku TV.
Just
stream it on your TV.
That's what I'll do. Also with trailers, we've just in this past week got one for Lovecraft Country, also a new HBO series. And I gotta say, this looks awesome.
Yes, it does.
Very excited about this. We already talked about Jordan Peele earlier and how much of a front runner in the horror game he's become all of a sudden. This thing's got his name all over it, him and J.J. Abrams. And this looks great. I cannot wait to see this. Let's see. Oops. Get out of here. Here we go. Oops. Figured out my buttons. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This trailer was great. I've been wondering and saying to myself for a long time, why aren't more Lovecraft stories getting developed into a series or a movie? I guess maybe it's kind of baked into the nature of Lovecraft. He doesn't make very visual stories. Like, all his stories tend to boil down to, oh, the monster was so scary, I can't even describe it. Just thinking about describing it to you made me insane. And if I told you about it, you would be insane. So it's kind of the nature of Lovecraft. So how well that'll translate to a screen experience, I guess, is up for debate. But I did really like just recently The Color Out of Space with my man Nick Cage. You see that one?
Oh, yeah.
That movie, that was really good.
I love Nick Cage. And I loved Mandy.
Yes.
And I love this one, and I can't wait to see what he does next. I hope he does more just off the wall weird shit.
Yeah. George is here. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize this is also written on a book called Lovecraft Country, which is in fact not an H.P. Lovecraft story. It's kind of the thing with Lovecraft is, you know, he's got his stories, but the mythology he's created and the themes he's introduced to the genre lived on way past him and his work. And a lot of writers come around and do their Cthulhu story, or whatever it is, you know. So this is based on a book based on his mythology, taking place, looks like in the 50s, about a man named Atticus, and his father goes missing, and so he has to travel to Lovecraft Country to go find him. And I was wondering if it would get, how deep into the weirdness would it get? Would it be a little more subtle, something like True Detective, which does kind of play with some Lovecraftian themes, but never steps over the line to having physical monsters jump out and kill people. But no, this trailer, there's monsters. There's
like, here's a monster.
Yeah, it's like, don't you worry, we got monsters. There's tentacles on the poster. It's going to be true Lovecraft, and also looks like it's very aware of probably the biggest controversy with H.P. Lovecraft is he was a flagrant racist. Some of his stories kind of are difficult to read with that in mind because of the places he goes. Some people tend to excuse it, like, oh yeah, everybody was very racist back then, but that doesn't really fly for me. So as much as I enjoy his contribution to horror and his legacy and his influence, there's always kind of that asterisk next to his name because of that. So,
and I think HBO is a very smart home for it, especially with what that kind of, because it seems like it really delves into those themes of racism and during that time, and HBO has been like most recently Watchmen, that season premiere helped a lot with that, and they're giving a voice to a lot of people of color,
Right.
like Insecure, and they have like their Latinx series of, they have multiple series for that, and so I think this is a very smart home for it. HBO is a very smart home for it.
Yeah.
And of course, J.J. Abrams signed that overall deal with HBO, so having him on that, and having Jordan Peele on that, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my most anticipated things this year. So,
yeah,
really excited. The trailer looks great. It being a series means I have the comfort of it not being delayed. It's going to come out on time. COVID ain't taking Lovecraft Country from us, luckily.
And I hope Jordan Peele never gets rid of this theme he has with his trailers, where he takes like a kind of a more positive, upbeat, kind of fun song, and then just like makes it very creepy.
Right, yeah. One last thing we'll talk about, because we did make a note for it here before we get into our review portion of the show, is, let's see, well, I won't even bother finding the graphic for it. We'll just talk about it, is Halloween Kills, the newest entry, because we did want to talk a little bit about 2020 horror movies here. That's definitely one of the big ones coming down the line. Doesn't look like it's going to get delayed. Looks like it's still...
Seems like they're sticking with it.
The October release date. What do you expect from that movie? Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I saw, Halloween 2018. Loved it. It was... No, I like the Rob Zombie ones, but there's a difference between, the Rob Zombie ones where, it was very gory and in your face. And then this one where it's like, it's building tension. It doesn't rely on the gore, kind of relies on the threat of the shape, and Michael Myers. And I thought it was very well done. That kind of long take where he's walking through the house, like he walks through the outside of the house and then through the house. I love that. That's a very well done scene that I absolutely loved. And I heard this one is going to be brutal. So it seems like they're going in that direction of like the Rob Zombie direction, where it's very hardcore and brutal. I heard this one's like in your face brutal, like bloody. So I'm very interested in how they pull that off.
Yeah.
Because fans didn't really react the best way with that subject matter with the Rob Zombie films.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, but I'm gonna be there opening night. I'm very committed to finishing this trilogy that they're doing.
I was initially kind of disappointed when they announced, we're gonna do 2 more, because I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if they had the restraint to make that new movie? It's a direct sequel to the first Halloween, erases all the other ones.
So that's it.
Yeah, and it tells a clean story. And I agree that it makes Michael Myers a creepy character again, which he hadn't been in decades. I would go as far as to say, even in the Rob Zombie stuff, it's those movies are gross and they're loud and they're not subtle, which, love it or hate it, that's definitely Rob Zombie's thing.
Yeah.
Michael Myers was not really a character that scared me anymore, but in the new one, he's brutal. The tension of waiting for him to show up it's definitely good. And the way that movie ends is so definitively of like, oh, okay, so they wanted to actually construct an ending for this character, which doesn't happen a lot in the horror. So I was like, good on them. And then we always knew it was going to happen. It made a ton of money, and like a week later, they're like, actually, we're going to make 2 more movies.
Yeah.
and the last one they've announced is called Halloween Ends, right?
Yes.
Which is
so I think that's going to be it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see about that, buddy.
I'm not sure David Gordon Green would do 2 more unless he had like originally was like, all right, if it doesn't make a bunch of money, here's the first one. It has a clean ending, but if it, if fans like it and they want more, I do have, you know, a trilogy planned out where it's going to be a clean ending.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's that kind of person where he has like a story idea and he's not going to, you know, drag it out until it dies.
Right. Well, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic because I did like the last one enough. You know, if there's an organic story there that they want to tell, I'll come and check it out. So hopefully it's good and hopefully it comes out on time. I think maybe October is safe enough, but we'll see. You never know the way things have been moving. You never know what's going to happen next in this timeline. So we'll see. All right. I think that about covers up our news items. Oh, no, you did also want to talk real quick about the new Purge movie, didn't you?
Yeah, the Forever Purge.
Yeah. what the hell is that going to be?
I have no idea. It's still slated for July 10th. It's the movie slated the soonest. Comes out a week before Tenet.
Yeah. Hasn't
moved. Hasn't been delayed. There's no word. You know, Universal delayed a bunch of stuff. Still keeping that there. So I don't think it's going to go to VOD. I think that's going to be something that they're going to bring back. I'm not sure what they're doing with it. I don't know when they're going to end this series, this you know, franchise. You know, after 5 movies, 2 seasons of a series. Like I don't know when they're gonna end it.
They are literally calling it the Forever Purge. So maybe no plans to do that.
I liked the first Purge, not the first movie. This 5th one called the First Purge.
Right.
I liked it. It was actually really good because I did not like the past 2.
Right.
And I liked the first one up until the ending. I thought the ending was very cheap, kind of like robbed fans a little bit. I just wasn't happy with that ending, but I liked it up until that ending. Overall, you know, it's still a pretty good movie. You know, past few sequels have been pretty bad, but they redeemed themselves with the first Purge. I thought it was really good. You know, some people might not like it because it's kind of makes you feel bad. You're like, all right, the world is kind of shitty. So I don't really want to see a movie that's going to remind me how shitty the world is. But there was optimism in this latest one. So I think that's what made me connect to it. But I don't know what they're going to do with the Forever Purge. There's no like story details on it.
Right. Yeah. The title makes me hope it's like super far in the future and takes place on.
And they're like, it's everybody's killing everybody nonstop. I have no idea, but they seem to be confident in it to keep it as the first movie that, you know, when theaters open back up, that's going to be one of the first new movies that are playing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I don't know when they're going. Like, when do they say this is the end?
When the money runs out, I guess. You know, that's usually when the interest dies down. That's when it'll stop, and then it'll go straight to DVD for the next 20 years or whatever. I would agree. It's ebbs and flows with the quality of the franchise, but I have enjoyed some of the movies, and there's something to be said about that movie coming out after everyone's been exiled in their homes for months. We're going to go out and watch a movie about people going outside and breaking the law for the night. So there's something to be said about the through line there. So I'll probably go see the Forever Purge, whatever it's going to be. All right. I think that does it for our news items today. So we're about to hop into the review portion of our show. Talk about One BR, a new horror film that we both watched recently. I do want to shout out what brought me to the film, which was that it was available in the Cleveland Cinema's virtual screening room. I would like to just shout out that service in general if people aren't familiar with it. We, again, talking about quarantine. Obviously, a lot of industries and businesses are suffering right now, the movie theater industry. Certainly in that conversation. Even the multiplexes, you know, we've seen AMC kind of sweating right now. Regal's been having a tough time. Some companies are on the verge of declaring bankruptcy. It's going to be interesting to see how some of them get out of that. So if they're suffering, you know, our more independent theaters got to be in a tough spot as well. So especially Northeast Ohio, we've got a lot of great independent theaters. Right now, the Cleveland Cinema's website is doing what's called a virtual screening room. A lot of small theaters are doing this, where essentially they'll have a big long list of movies that certain studios and distributors have offered up. You can rent those movies off their website, and then a significant portion of that ticket sale goes directly to the theaters. So obviously right now they can't bring people in to watch movies. They're not selling concessions, so it's a tough moment for them. So the ability to support those theaters, I know like Cedar Lee's on there, the Capitol Theater, Tower City, and then the Nightlight in Akron. They're not part of that network, but they also have a virtual screening room on their website. So if you want something new to watch, we're all looking for ways to stay entertained. I would highly suggest and recommend, if you enjoy the theater experience, seeking out one of these virtual screening rooms and finding something you like. There's a huge list on the Cleveland one right now. And luckily us horror fans were not excluded, because we were able to find this film right here, 1BR, which I might not have heard of otherwise. So great opportunity. So I know we did in fact get Mr. Mishra in here. We'll bring him in just a second. Very excited about that. But before we do, I guess we should just share some of our thoughts on the movie at first. In a nutshell, how did you like 1BR or One Bedroom, whichever it is? That's my first question. Do you call it 1BR or One Bedroom?
That's what I was like, how do you say, like, obviously spelling out's 1BR, but like, how do you pronounce this? Is it 1BR or One Bedroom? I was very confused on that, but overall, I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those rare movies that kind of makes me feel, like we were talking about earlier, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It made me feel like frustration, not towards the movie, but like I wanted this character to, like, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I wanted her to stand up. Like it made me feel all these things like simultaneously, and that's, like we were saying, that's when I know like a horror movie is good, is when I'm like very anxious, very frustrated, very kind of just like it. I don't know, like I really like this. It's there hasn't been many horror movies that I've seen like this, because it can be realistic at times.
Yeah.
Like you can say, this could probably happen, and it has a nice twist. I'm a sucker for twists.
Yeah.
So the twist ending, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So overall, I would definitely highly recommend this. Go out of your way, find this movie. Go to the virtual screening room for the Cleveland Cinema and check this out.
Something I really appreciated about it is it does not waste any time.
No, it does not.
It's a quick, clean.
Surprised.
Yeah, quick, clean 90 minutes, and you got the initial setup from the premise. You read what it's about. You see the trailer, and it does not waste time getting to that.
No, it does not.
And it's got kind of a classic Hitchcockian setup of like, a girl goes out west to start a new life, and she's in this complex full of strangers, and then it just takes off in a different direction and goes somewhere I hadn't really seen before. So I appreciated how tense it got right off the bat. And I would as well recommend the movie. That being said, hopefully he's ready. I see him down here at the bottom. Hopefully I don't catch him off guard here.
Hi.
How's it going?
This is Mishra.
This is the face of the COVID quarantine.
Right
now.
None of us are looking
good. Sad. I feel like you were talking about The Shining earlier, and I'm trapped here with my wife and my 20-month-old and my dog, and I feel like I'm Jack Torrance, except for I've been drinking, so I'm not like in my mind.
Yeah. I'll work a no play over there, I'm afraid.
Kinda, right? Like, it's upsetting that we've all been shut down, but it's also very good because we don't want people to get sick. And going back to what you had mentioned before, we need to support these independent cinemas just to make sure. Hold on one second. Do you need me to leave? Are you gonna make noise? Our pool guys are here, so.
I appreciate you coming on so spur of the moment.
I was trying to put the baby to who's inside is going to come on. But let's see. Are you going to make noise or no? Okay, good. We're good. We can talk. Anyway, we should support independent cinemas. Going back to that, Cleveland Cinema. We're also at the Gateway Cinema in Columbus, I believe. I'm also going to be at the Music Box, I think, in Chicago this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a couple other theaters I'm forgetting in my. Screenland, Amor, which is in Kansas City, which is a nice old independent theater. So we are supporting those. We're. I think there's an announcement this morning. I don't know if we're in it yet, but I think we will be at some point. But I think Draft House. Draft House is going to do their own thing.
Oh, okay.
They announced that today. So we'll see if we're getting in there or not, or when we're going to get there, or whatever it is. We were talking about The Wretched before. They're doing they're doing some really great stuff over there in those drive-in theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're the number 1 movie last weekend. $70 almost or something. Of course, it's not counting Trolls because they're not even talking about what Trolls is making. Nothing to us. We'll never even mention what we're making. Like, oh, you.
Yeah.
Can I curse on you, by the way? Can I curse?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anything goes on this one. No worries. We've got no sponsors to contend with. So,
not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Hopefully.
Not yet. We'll see. This is only episode 1, so we'll see what we can manage. Okay. No, it is definitely kind of the time to shine for indie movies because everybody's stuck inside looking for new things to watch. So it's the direct path to that.
It's weird though. They're bringing out I'm very obsessive about what I look at, and I was looking at how we were doing the first week we were out, and we were being beat by M. Night Shyamalan's fucking Split movie. My God, 50 years old. Go away, Shamalama Ding Dong. Bullshit. But I mean, he's a very nice guy. The whole thing though is that there's all these movies that are being re-released that people haven't seen. Reanimator, I think, is out again. And that's in the top 10 for iTunes, Apple TV they call it now. So it's interesting to see what they're sort of re-releasing into the wild because there's such a lack of stuff, in that regard. So. But I would encourage you, if you like the movie, please tell your friends, obviously, and
definitely.
It's funny. I used to test movies for a living. I did market research for film for all the different studios here. I'm in LA, here in town, and there's a score on there that they consider very good. If you have a high one of these, and it's the definitely recommend score. Would you definitely recommend it to your friends? Because that score is what it is. Any trailer I can cut together, any sort of premium ad space that I could buy is nothing compared to when you tell your friend, hey, that movie's dope, go see it, right? So that's, for little films like this, that's what we need. That's what we live for and stuff like that. So,
it's that word of mouth. And I'm definitely going to recommend this because, like I said, it made me feel so uncomfortable, anxious. That's what I look for. We were talking about Hereditary, The Witch, those A24 films. And those films kind of, give you that feeling. And that's what draws me to horror. And that's what I loved about, 1BR is that anxiousness that it gave me. And it kept me, focused on the edge of my seat, wanting to know what's going to happen next. What is she going to do? How is she going to get herself out of this, situation? It's a very good, I'm very surprised I didn't hear about it until Taylor told me about it. He's like, you got to check out this movie. We're going to talk about it. Check it out. And I'm very happy, he gave me that recommendation because it's a movie I'm very happy I saw.
I appreciate that. It's tougher with smaller films, obviously. We had a very sort of, plotted out festival run. We didn't have a distributor at the time. We obviously do now. Dark Sky, MPI, a great distributor. They've done lots of great movies like Bliss and Girl on the Third Floor, and they're amazing for films of our size. And they actually we premiered at Fantasia Fest in Montreal, and they were really sweet to program us because we didn't know anybody, didn't have a distributor and so forth. And Dark Sky at that festival was like, hey, listen, we want to be in business with you. And we were like, let's listen to some other people first. And then, of course we went with them at the end of the day because they were really the best in terms of this size of film. But we had a lot of, different festivals we were in to try and, build the awareness for it around the world. We were in Beyond Fest here in LA. We did our US premiere here. We were in the Tronche in Paris, and and also Brooklyn Horror Fest, and like we went all over the world. I mean, literally like on a tour of sorts. Like October, everyone decides to do their festivals then, like so, Halloween, But
right.
We were all over the place with that, and if it hadn't been for sort of cancellations going on right now, we're still actually going to be, I think, in Chattanooga. Who's going to do a virtual thing with Microsoft? I think they got the dates today. It's May 22nd through something like 4 days or something, I think. So we're going to be probably in that one last festival because we're already out. We're already out in VOD and stuff, so it doesn't make a difference. But we did a big kind of festival run to try to build awareness for the film, and it was a thing where it helped to some extent, but nothing helps like your publicist. We had this great publicist like Kayla Hare, who started off our festival run and got us like all this great awareness. And I think that's one of those things where it's worth the money you spend even on a small budget film to hire a good publicist to help you out and stuff like that. And for the publicist that's with Dark Sky, she's done a good job of getting us Daniela Sapkar. She's done a good job of getting us like in the New York Times and different sort of bigger publications and stuff. Like we were in USA Today, so we got a decent amount of buzz, and we did well for what kind of size film we are. We'd love to like keep on doing better if we can, until we come out. We're going to be coming out, I think, on June 2nd or 6th, I want to say, one of those two dates for Blu-ray. So that's the next date to sort of get, but it'll be on VOD forever until we figure out which streamer we're going to go with. If it's going to be, I don't know, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, something like that. We'll see. But they're really pleased with how we've been doing, actually, as far as the size of film that we are. So it's been lovely, and people like you were talking about it, so that's always nice. So I feel like if you're talking about it, I gotta come out and say hi. Or do something.
We really appreciate it. This is awesome.
No, we're talking about the film, So
it's good. I did not foresee this being how our first episode was going to go. So this has been an awesome surprise.
Especially with like a film we both really enjoy. Have someone a part of that film come on and chat with us. That's just awesome.
Well, I don't want to tell you this, but I was trying to get. I just like when you guys put me on just now. I was trying to get text Naomi Grossman, who's in our film. American Horror Story. She plays Pepper.
Yeah.
I've known her for like 20 years.
No kidding.
So I was trying to get her to come on, but I don't think she's getting back to me. She's a girl in makeup. She doesn't want to fucking do it.
Yeah. No, it is fortunate that we did like your movie. It would be so uncomfortable if we brought you on and then we didn't give a good review.
I thought about that, but I'm like, no one's gonna like fucking do a whole show if they hate the movie. Like, movie, it's like it's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So no, this is really cool. I am curious because I don't even know if I said for sure you're the producer on the film. This is coming from I believe this is the writer-director David Marmot's first feature, I think.
It is David Marmor. We met him actually. My wife went to high school with his manager, and I had one of those meetings you're all supposed to have, and like, oh, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on this. Let me give you 2 scripts to read, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll read them. 6 months later, I don't read them, and the project I'm working on fall through. What? We're cooking brats. She doesn't understand like how long we should cook it or whatever. I love you. Anyways, so I met with his manager, and he sent me 2 scripts, and I was like, I'm not reading this shit. I have this other movie with like some other big name star I can't talk about because he dropped out and he's a douchebag, and he dropped out right before we were gonna shoot a month before. Then now I'm like, I gotta fucking find a movie to like shoot now or whatever. So I started looking. I read his 2 scripts, one of which was Tragedy Girls, actually.
Oh my God!
Oh,
wow.
No kidding.
So yeah, Tyler McIntyre is also repped by these 2 guys, Jared and Allard from Epicenter, Allard Cantor, Jared Murray, and so what happens is that they send me the 2 scripts. I don't like. I tell them, listen, Tragedy Girls I can't do because it's a horror comedy, and I don't think that's going to work out because I never think anyone's satisfied with either of those things. They're like, oh yeah, we just finished shooting that a week ago. And I was like, what do I know?
Yeah.
So the other one I liked quite a lot, and I met with David Marmor, who an amazing writer-director. Guy's super smart. You know, it was a pretty perfect script. I mean, if anything, we had to pull it back because we couldn't afford to shoot certain sequences and so forth. And we were first time producers. My partner Shane Borster and myself, we have a company called Malevolent Films. We're trying to make thinking man's horror movies like The Witch and stuff that you've mentioned before. That was something we saw. We saw at Sundance, the first showing, and we were like, "This is the fucking best movie." I don't know how to market it. Old English speaking, but like they figured out to bamboozle people to come in for that movie, and then it got very low scores in retrospect in terms of their cinema scores. But they got people in, so they did their job as far as the marketing was concerned. But so David and I met together. We liked each other's sensibilities. We were first time producers. He's a first time writer director. And we were just like, listen, let's learn together. Let's figure this out. And we shot the movie in 15 days, then did another 4 days of reshoots 8 months later because we knew we needed to do a different ending for it. And the ending that you see was one of 2 endings we shot like 8 months later. And but, you know, we were all patient with each other, which was the greatest part of it. We weren't like, go get our money back for us. You know, we were like, all right, well, he actually had a baby, David Marmer did, right after we finished shooting.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a baby right before we started doing the reshoots. So I was like, get where you're coming from. I'm out of my fucking mind, like right now. But we were patient with each other. We trusted each other. And we actually, did a fair amount of testing with it as well, because that was my background. That's where I came from as far as a market research for film. We did 5 screenings of 20 people and then did focus groups on them. One of the things was the ending we kind of went over. One of the things we went over was whether to show more of the cat. Like I was like, I want to see cat. I want to see that cat like shoot out of the oven on fire, And but the test audience said that 25% of them wanted to see more of the cat, 75% didn't, and the 25% more were more the hardcore horror fans. Yeah. And the question for them was, "Well, can you live without not seeing the cat?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay, it's okay." I was like, "All right, I lose that argument. We're gonna not show the cat or whatever." And stuff. I had that's what it cost us more money. And I was like, I don't want to spend $3,000 for this bullshit. Like, we've already spent like $100 on this. So anyway, so that was one of the things we learned through the testing and one of the things that helped us in terms of like crafting into something. I'll tell you, we had a lot of rejection with the film in terms of film festivals, but mostly because it wasn't finished. We were submitting lots of like incomplete sort of versions of it. I mean, Sundance was like a pipe dream. We didn't get into that. We didn't get into Slam Dance. We didn't get into like South by Southwest. Hell, we didn't get into Seattle Film Festival. They watched us like 27 times. And those fuckers didn't put us in, right? So, but thank God though, because once we were finished a bit more with it, like Fantasia took us, which is like, second biggest genre festival, if not the biggest in the world. And they're one of the best. Like they're such a huge, like, amazing, festival. Mitch Davis programs an incredible slate there. I mean, things like not only our film, but like The Wretched, I think, premiered there, for example. And like stuff of that quality. Swallow, I think was there. If you haven't seen that,
I've been meaning to watch that one.
Oh, it's fantastic film. If you think ours is uncomfortable,
I'll be taking that out.
Yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable. But they have a ton of movies that they premiere there, and that's like a real tastemaker sort of festival. I'll say that because the second you're in there, everyone and their mother is then calling you like, "Hey, you want to like be with our festival?" Like, all right, fly us out there. Let's see.
Yeah.
So you said you guys are specializing in that, elevated thinking man's horror. Do you have anything like in the works in that genre?
We have a much bigger budget film called Emergent. Marcel Sarmiento is the writer director for that one. He did the movie Dead Girl, if you've ever seen it. I think it may be on it's on Shudder from time to time. I think they just took it off maybe or I think it's on Amazon actually. Anyway, so that's more of a sci-fi horror movie. I can't say much about it because we're trying to J.J. Abrams out of this, right? So it's like
I love that mystery box element. So
it's better to have it in this day and age. Everyone wants to see. You just don't show them for a second and see what happens,
Yeah.
But we also loved working with David Marmer, who is just I don't use the word visionary, but he is a visionary actually, because he has this next film we're doing. I can't talk about it, but we had a good enough experience working with him that we are working to find him a little bit of money for the next one, which is going to be like more of like a $4 to $5 million movie. Awesome. So yeah, we'll see what happens. He is like so super smart, this guy. He went to Harvard. He went to USC for graduate to do directing and writing and stuff like that. So I was fine with him. I'd rather deal with a writer-director, I'll be honest, than having to deal with a writer and a director. Whose dick do I got to suck today? Like, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I don't want to. So it's like, so dealing with one person's easier, frankly, and his vision's very clear. I mean, we had so much shit that went down filming this movie. Like, we lost 3 of our leads, including our Sarah character, and Brian. And our Miss Stanhope character, like 4 days before we were shooting. We had to recast everything and push it back a week. I wrote an article for Movie Maker magazine. If you go to that thing, you can look it up, which details all the horrible things that happened. We had fires. We had a production truck that was stolen in the middle of the night. And it was involved in a high-speed televised chase with the LAPD.
Oh, wow.
What?
So, yeah, trust me, just go read that article. It'll tell you all about it, and it's just ridiculous what happened. And like, the director we didn't even tell the director this happened. We just started an hour late. It was like but I mean, in all our first movie too, by the way, we were just like, I don't know how much more we can be tested. I feel like or something, But then the fires happened, and our small theatrical release went away. Our premiere party went away. We were going to premiere at the ArcLight Hollywood. We were all excited. It didn't happen, but hopefully the good people on VOD stuck at home will hear of this and go watch the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you're watching this right now, please check out the movie. It's fantastic. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
We just looks like Matt popped in, who's been producing the show a little bit in the background, which I appreciate. He brought our special guest here at a very short moment's notice. I definitely would not have been able to pull that off. We'll talk about it at the same time.
I do got to say thank you for coming on, because like part of the reason that this whole network that me and my buddy Nick started and brought our Taylor and Connor and some other friends onto was to give independent film a little bit more light, and just having a producer of an independent film come on here and talk about his film is just it kind of validates that reason. You know what I mean?
Well, it's an auspicious start to hopefully a very long podcast, right? Like a very long.
Well, Reely Scared, actually, I don't know if Taylor mentioned this. Reely Scared started almost 2 years ago, and we got like 2 episodes in, but because at the time he was just by himself, and this entire COVID has evolved our podcast crew, network, whatever you want to call it, into something better than I thought we were going to be, because I discovered this program that we're using called StreamYards, and it allows us to be able to do the podcasts we do without having to meet up and things like that. And we can do the interviews like we're doing now, and because you never know who's going to be in the room. But I have a question for you. You keep talking about you want to be the thinking man's producer when it comes to horror and films in general. All 3 of us here want to work in the industry at some point in our lives. I know Taylor probably these 2 made a movie. Well, Taylor wrote it. Connor was the director on it. What advice would you have for people who are trying to break into this medium?
And the genre too, because I'm very interested in it naturally.
Well, I would tell you this, and I feel very strongly about this, and I know that like a lot of people will do shorts to sort of like sort of build their experience and sort of their acumen. I get it. I would say this: I don't think you need to make more than 2 shorts, frankly. Like, don't, because it takes up so much of your fucking time, and you could be, if you just spent like a little bit more money or crowdsourced or did whatever you had to do to just, if you have a clever idea and you can shoot it properly because you learned how to shoot now, or you have a great DP, obviously, that knows how to shoot, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you're not fucking around with people. If they're interested in the source material and they've seen a little of what you can do from your shorts. And so if you can build it that way and just go down that path, I see so many friends that just like, they're just stuck in this short world. And I'm like, you're just spinning your wheels. Like, people want to know that you can be in the club. That's sadly the case. They want to know that you can make a movie, bring it to completion, because I swear to God, that's something in its own right, right? And if you're smart about how you can market it and figure out different things that work, like I'll tell you, I'm kind of going on a tangent here a little bit, but horror people want something short and sweet. Like, it's like comedy. It's the same thing. Like 90 minutes is enough. Ours is exactly 90 minutes. Like we cut out so much from it. Like the first act was 10 minutes longer than it was. And we were like, we're just not getting to her being in that situation, which we won't talk about because I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
We're just not getting it quick enough. And, you know, our focus groups and everything else helped us sort of like cut, and, you know, lose some stuff that really was great, but, you know, we had to lose it. It's a whole rigmarole just telling you that you I wouldn't focus on shorts. Put your energy in making a fucking solid feature. And once you've made that feature and people trust you and it's good, I mean, if it's shitty, you might be running, at least you made a movie. What? I'm going to come later. Sorry. Dinner's ready. Okay. But once you've made that movie, at least you're trusted. People know that you can, like, you know, make a movie. If you make money on a movie, even better. Oh, you made money and you came in on budget or whatever. Or even if you didn't come in on budget, you still made money on the movie. You know, it's a weird landscape we live in right now. You know, it's a thing where if you can make a movie and you can make it good and you can make some money, then you'll be trusted. If you can just make a movie, you have a really next good idea that's a bit more expensive, you still might be trusted, you know, but you have to at least have done the one. So that's my advice that I see. We went to festivals all over the world and I'd meet all these different, like, people who've done shorts, like they were playing in front of ours, or I go to a short series and they're like, oh my gosh, we love your movie. And I was like, well, do a movie next time. Don't waste your time with this bullshit. Like, you're not getting any younger. No one's getting any younger. So it's like, just go forth, my son. That's what I would tell them, you know, in that regard. It's the better idea, I think. That's my advice.
That's good to hear. I for sure, I would say that's definitely relevant advice. Connor right now is in the, I think, finished just recently writing your first feature. Do I understand that?
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of writing what I've been thinking to believe is a short film, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to reassess that based on your advice here today.
I mean, there's all these kinds of ways to sort of get money for films and you know, make movies. Let's say you can go and try to, like, you know, buddy up with, go watch somebody at one of the agencies talk. Let's say they always feel really happy when you give them, like, props, because the agents are like, they don't get any love at all. So you go and you charm yourself to an agent and say, hey, listen, I got this small little movie. I need help. Like, can you help me cast it? And if they like you, they might take a chance and be like, all right, the script's fucking great. Let me get you somebody. Let you get you one person of note. Like, we actually, you know, I mentioned we lost a lot of our cast. We actually had this big person who I can't mention because of, you know, some libel shit that might go down or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, she was on some sort of, like, retarded show on, you know, whatever big cable network. And you know, here's a mistake you don't do. She made us hire her friend. I don't think it was her boyfriend. I don't know that, you know, for sure, allegedly. But, you know, he was also on a TV show. And I was like, you know, some piece of shit I never watch. I'll say that. Like, you know, on the WB, for example, or CW. The mistake in hiring him was that, like, she called. Here's the sad part of it. I'm actually in, and this is one of many things that independent producers do. They're just humiliating duties you just go do. So this girl wanted this feminine energy drink, which I can't mention as well because of certain reasons. But we had talked to the company that makes this drink, and they said, we're going to send us some for free, like a bunch of it, actually. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't come till 3 days into shooting. So I had to go to the fucking store with the other producer and, like, the Gelson's Market and go find some of this feminine energy drink. While I'm there haggling with the manager, because I'm like, hey, listen, we got a case, but I feel like we need more. Can you please go check in the back? I don't think we have any. Can you just please go check in the back? So this guy's going to check in the back. Meanwhile, I get a call from this girl's agent, and they're like, she's out. And I'm like, no. What the fuck is going on? The manager shows back up. Yeah, we have an extra case of it. And I'm like, we don't need it. I was
my God.
Gelson's, you know, about this. An hour later, the agent calls for, you know, her significant other, who's the Brian character in the movie, right? He's like, okay. He's out too. And we're like, holy shit, what do we do now? We're like 3 days away from shooting. Like, we put all this, like, personal money into this movie.
Yeah.
I can't say how much. But long and short, like, we go to a bar immediately, and we're like, what the fuck do we do here? when we're at that bar, we get another call from our old lady character. Susan Davis plays a role now, and she's amazing. She's actually the mom from War Games. But we had another character actress who was a very respected character actress, and people know. Turns out, her husband collapsed, rushed to the hospital, dies. So we lost 3 people in one day. And we were like, holy shit, what do we do here? So we just scramble. And the thing of it was that Nicole Bryden-Bloom was always our first choice, actually. The other girl who came in had 3 million Instagram followers or some bullshit that you had to follow as a producer, sadly, nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So, for us, it was like, we'll already be in the black if we hire this girl, right? Because she has such a following and it should extrapolate into XYZ, money back to us. So we got back to Nicole and we said, hey, listen, we don't have a lot of time. We actually ended up bumping the movie back a week is what we did. And Nicole flew out the next day, on a Thursday or something or other. And she got 5 hours to rehearse with our director. That was it, for the entire time we had. And she just came to work on the Monday when we started, and we went from there. Meanwhile, we didn't have now it's Friday, right? And we're starting on Monday. And I'm looking for older lady actresses, and I'm like, holy shit, what do we do? I ask all my friends, please send me reels of older lady actresses. I look at one of these reels on 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and it's Susan Davis's reel. And I there's a number at the end of it, and I'm like, it's got to be her manager. So I call the number, and it's her. And I'm like, okay, listen, this is highly inappropriate. I'm gonna pitch you the movie, and I'm gonna pitch you us, and then you see what happens. And she, at the end of the conversation, we talked for 20 minutes. She's like, I've never been in a cult movie before. Like, all right, what happens? And she's like, all right, so 11:30 we sign her, and now it's 6:30 on Friday night, and we still haven't got our Brian character yet. And we're fucking freaking out. We're sitting in Barney's Beanery. We're also drinking again, so you know where this is going. But we're just freaking out. We don't have him. And finally, we're trying to call people, our friends, who work for Blumhouse or different people like this. And we're like, tell the different agencies to stay open later for us. Help us, please, And they were helping us. And stuff. And finally, we get a call at 7 from Giles Maddie, who plays Brian now. It turns out he had been driving down from San Francisco, so he couldn't stop and read the script. So he ends up pulling side of the road and then reading the script on his phone and just reading his part. And he says yes to it just based off of that for some glorious reason. Wow. And we were we're making a movie. On Monday. So that's how horrible it was.
Yeah.
Stuff. It's how bad it can be, but it all worked out.
He takes a swig of wine after thinking about it.
It's an encouraging story because
I get a sense memory of being so upset and stressed that I have to drink. Telling you,
it's encouraging because it shows how much can go wrong. Seems like virtually every step of the way, and somehow you still manage to make a high quality film at the end.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the funniest thing that happened was the stolen truck thing, where I get this text in the middle of the night from one of the producers, and I'm just dead asleep because we've been working 18-hour days or something, and I'm just I have to wake up at 5, so I'm asleep, and at 5 o'clock I read this text, and it's something really, really, really bad happened, but I think it's going to be okay. What the fuck is this? I'm calling him, what happened? And he's like, okay. At 3 o'clock in the morning, we parked our 3 production trucks right next to our office, which actually almost burned down. That's another part of the story, but we won't go into that. The California fire. I'll tell you everything. We parked the 3 cars, the 3 trucks in a row on the side of the road on Sepulveda. This is kind of Bel Air. This is on the other side of the 405 freeway from the Getty Museum. And in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, this white Escalade with no plates pulls up, and 3 guys get out and break into the first truck. And one of them, the other 2 guys get back in the Escalade, and the one guy is just driving away. In 8 minutes, they broke it into his truck and are on the road. What they don't know is that we had a parking PA in the middle truck who's watching all this shit go down. And so he's like, holy shit, this is fucking real. So he gets in his car and he follows the truck, right? He's on the phone with the police. Call 911. And the police are like, sir, you got to stand down. You got to stand down. And he's like, I'm not going to stand down. I'm not standing down. You are in pursuit of this truck, And so we were like, it was amazing, right? So he they go from the 405 to the 10 to the 110, and near the iconic Felix sign that you see off the 110, that's where the helicopter lights come on the truck, and then 3 cop cars just rush in. Tries to gun it, gets off the street near USC, and it's going all over the place. And finally, he destroys the engine trying to gun it. We had to pay this deductible or whatever bullshit. They pull him over. He's at a McDonald's / Chevron station. And now this is all on TV. This is in the article I'm telling you about, right? They have video footage of this guy. And he's a very handsome felon, by the way. Like somehow everyone's like, he's handsome. I'm like, fuck that guy. It turns out like this is a ring been stealing trucks that's never been caught. And this guy was new to this ring, right? So he turns over on them and turns state's evidence and is supposed to pay us restitution someday, but I've never seen a dime. So the parking PA were like, oh my God, this is so great. Thank you so much. I feel bad. I can't remember his name. It's just I'm bad with names. But we're like, here, we'd like to get you a really expensive bottle of alcohol, because we like to drink apparently in this production. And he's like, no. I just want the McDonald's gift certificates. And we're like, what about In-N-Out? And he's like, no, McDonald's. And we're like, Art wants what it is, so we got him. But again, the director didn't know about this. The actors didn't know about this. When we were premiering at Fantasia, I told the story again, and the actors were like, what the fuck happened here? We didn't know this. I'm like, dude, it's called producing. We need you to fucking think about this movie that you're shooting right now, and we have 15 days to shoot. You don't even know this shit.
Was there any point in the midst of all this where you were like, I don't know, I don't think this one's going to turn out at all. Maybe I should just call it quits?
Well, let's put it this way: my producing partner and myself actually, put up the money for this to do our first film because we wanted to show proof of concept in a way that we could make this happen. And what more proof is there to put your money on the line, let's say. And there was never a point where I was like, this cannot happen. I'm not like losing all this fucking money. So we had to figure this fucking out. And so we called in friends, we called in whatever we had to like figure it out. Like I said, I used to test movies for a living, and so like Jason Blum, we helped them with Paranormal Activity, and everyone believed in that movie. And we
really,
it's a huge story for that one. But we helped them all in different ways, and so his head of post production was just Phil Dawes was so lovely, trying to help us do everything we could and stay open and whatever else. And on the film itself, we pulled so many favors to make the film. My high school friend / college roommate from USC, Jason George, did all our sound for us for like no money. The guy does like Alice in Wonderland and like 21 Jump Street and stuff like that. And like he let us sneak into Sony and have this big like sound stage and do stuff like for nothing. And so I mean we pulled every favor we could. We were and that's I think another thing for independent film and first time directors, like start lining up your people that you can get help from and stuff. That's a huge thing to kind of do even before you make the movie. Sometimes people give you money just on the strength of you having that sound guy or whatever else, or that composer or what have you. Line up all your assets and your allies, and that can even help get money for the film to some extent. Sometimes I would say.
Oh,
I've been just rambling here. Sorry.
No, this is great.
No, I
man.
love it.
I really do love this, and I actually am going to shamelessly plug these two brilliant men right here. If they are two of the hardest working people I know, they are also two of the most creative people I know when it comes into genre film. And that project they worked on, it's a short, but only because
it's a student film.
It's a student film, so it was short for that reason. So
that's when you're supposed to do shorts. I'm telling you the truth. For that's when you're supposed to do it. You know what I mean?
So
sorry.
If you have any interest in seeing something which I would call one of your thinking man's genre films, check out Murmur, the short film. You can find it on the Overlords Pictures YouTube page. The audio, they're still working even now to this day to try to get some why is it slipping in my mind right now? ADR done. But story-wise, Taylor wrote it, Connor directed it, and I think they both did camera work throughout it. And it's a really good thinking man's film. And I have your email now. I can send it to you if you want. So.
Yeah, send it to me. Yeah. Send it to me.
Don't harass the man.
Listen, a lot of people helped us out. I'll say this: there's a lot of pitfalls in this. I'll tell you one thing people don't think about a lot. That you went to the trouble and you made this movie, and you thought your festival ran out, that's great, but who's going to sell this movie for you, right? And I'll tell you, and this is sad, but a lot of sales agents are fucking dirt merchants. They're the worst part of this industry. They'll promise you X, Y, and Z. You'll never see statements from them. They'll never actually deliver on anything they promise you. They'll make just enough money to make their nut, and then they'll leave you by the side of the road to die. And this is something people don't think about, and you need to educate yourself about it, because and you need to talk to people who've gone through the process, like myself. I'm happy to give advice. I was giving advice to a guy today. I think he won't like me talking about it, but there's a movie called The Hosts, plural. Be on the look for that one next year. It's a solid film. It's a solid film. But he's asking me questions about, okay, why did you go with your sales agent? Who would you recommend? And And I was definitely just giving him advice. So I'm happy to do that because people helped us. And to your point, if you want me to look at the film and give advice and whatever else, I'm more than happy to do it. Maybe we can help each other out in some ways. Obviously, I always try to help people in that regard. That's what you should do as a producer if you can help it.
Yeah, awesome.
I really appreciate that.
That does mean a lot, because, like I said, this is why we started this. We wanted to be able to. I mean, if I know you probably are a busy man, but we have our normal show in the past few weeks, except for this past week. This past week we did something with comic book movies, but that's just because we're geeks. But the past few weeks before that, it was just interviewing independent. We're in Cleveland. We're all in Cleveland, Ohio, or the Northeast Ohio area, and we have a fledgling independent film scene here. So the past few weeks, we've just been interviewing people in that scene. So
I mean, that's awesome. Listen, a lot of this stuff can be very educational. Just these interviews, stuff you learn, and things like that. I mean, it's really great. I think that be aggressive. Go after bigger people. Just ask them to come on. 9 times out of 10, they may just say yes. You never know. Everyone has something to promote, right? It's if 5 people see this and go watch the movie, it was worth an hour of my time.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Yeah. I appreciate your presence here. It's
thank you so much.
You made a twisty movie, and you've brought an unexpected twist to our podcast. So it's been an awesome surprise having you here, man. I'm sure you want to go eat dinner pretty soon.
I have to go eat. My lovely wife coming out. And I'm like, I'm more important.
Yes, I do not want you to feel any closer to Jack Torrance than you already do. So we will definitely let you go eat.
But
that's what it is. All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And,
thank you so much, sir.
And I'll see if anybody has questions. I'll try to answer them later. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Cheers, guys. Bye. How do I turn this off?
I got you.
There he goes. Wow, what a twist.
Yeah. That was awesome.
I wouldn't have popped on, but I did have to shamelessly plug the Murmur Boys. So,
well, I appreciate you doing that, and you were pulling the strings behind the scenes. I saw him pop up in the bottom, and then he was in the chat, and I was like, oh my god, we should work this out, but I got to talk at the same time. How the hell am I going to pull this off?
Yeah, so, I really did not have the.
Oh no, he didn't ask him.
Oh no! We have his email now, and he's going to talk to us about.
Yeah, I didn't have the balls to to promote our little short film that we did 4 years ago.
But 4 years ago,
Matt did it, and you know what? Maybe something can come out of this. Maybe we can. Me and Taylor can work on something in the future. Create a feature and.
And he kept talking about the thinking man's genre film, and that's why I was like, why the fuck aren't they plugging Murmur right now? I'm like, they should be plugging the living shit out of Murmur right now. This is the opportunity.
Well, hey, you heard me a couple weeks ago pitching to Johnny when I'm hoping to be a thinking man's thriller or horror movie. Now maybe I was thinking that was going to be 20 minutes long. Maybe I should, but I always try to make big ideas. Maybe I should go up to 90.
I didn't hear the pitch, so after this, just shoot me over some details. Maybe we can work on this together.
Yeah,
send the story over to him, and maybe something can come out of it. Maybe we can make something great.
Right.
Yeah, I know. You still have Connor. I got to make you one, and I got to make Chris and Toby one. But Taylor still has his Watt Movies email, so I can easily put him in contact with.
Go ahead and make me one. Just send me the information.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did with Taylor. Which Taylor, I have a feeling we're gonna have to reset your password because it's been so long.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I do want to say I just want to bring it back real quick. 1BR, because we didn't really do as much of a review as I initially planned. I mean, I think what we got was preferable. Yes. But I do want to reiterate that this movie was great. It's great, man. True. I'm a little caught off guard by the whole experience here. Yeah. It's great, and you can find it. Yeah, we totally spaced once we got him on. Or at least in that respect, I spaced. But
in our defense, we didn't know that was going to happen.
Not at all. Yeah,
that was.
I think me and Taylor were actually joking about it before we got on earlier today. We were like, "What? Maybe they pop in, maybe they don't." And sure enough, the producer pops in, and it was awesome.
I know with smaller films that tends to happen because I know Connor, you and I used to talk about how we watched Collider Live and Movie Talk and things like that. When Peanut Butter Falcon came out, Roxy Starr, who was on Collider Live, talked about the fact that she was on her own live stream talking about how she watched Peanut Butter Falcon, and that turned into a whole interview situation for that show from her own podcast. So for independent film, that's why I always try to tag it when I tweet out the links and things like that, because you never know who's looking, especially when you tag the film and other things like that. You might have a producer pop in. And honestly, once again, who the fuck expected to pull this on the first episode back? Taylor, by the way, I do have the updated logo for you where we include Resurrection in there. So
oh, cool. I don't know if we got to always throw Resurrection. That was just kind of my idea for this one. We'll see. I don't know. We'll try it out. I'll see what it looks like.
Once again, please check out 1BR, parentheses, 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little, a hidden gem, if you will.
Yeah.
It's very well done. You guys won't be disappointed. Go out of your way, seek it out. I checked it out. I couldn't figure out how to stream it on my TV through the Cleveland Cinema virtual screening room, but I will be using that feature in the future going forward. But I rented it, or actually I bought it on Vudu. So, it's available on Vudu, iTunes, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Go out of your way, check it out. You won't be disappointed. You really won't.
Yeah. And I'm not just singing its praises because the producer showed up in our podcast. I was genuinely prepared to say that I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, so was I.
It's like I said before, it's a clean 90 minutes. It does not waste time to get moving. If you go check out the trailer, you'll get a little slice of what it's about. I don't want to say too much again because I don't want to spoil it. We were talking twists. I think it has a great Twilight Zone-esque ending. It was just one of those things when it happened that made me smile because it was such a crazy, ambitious idea.
Yeah.
It is kind of a cult film, but I'll say in an aspect that I haven't seen before. Not so much an occult film, but a cult film.
Yeah.
It was a tight 3-act thriller story that I really liked, and I would recommend to anybody who likes horror. And if you can, definitely look at it on the Cleveland Cinema page, or if somebody happens to be watching it's not from Northeast Ohio, check out your independent theater. I'm sure they've got a virtual screening room. Maybe this is landed in it. Yeah, if not, you'll probably still find a great independent movie or an art house movie or a foreign movie. Get out there, support your local theaters. We want them to still be around when we're allowed to go back outside. And for the meantime, while you're stuck inside, watch this movie because it's definitely worth your time. It moves quick. It'll go by real quick.
Yeah.
I'm now curious if we're going to be able to possibly pull off a watch along with Hello, because that would be awesome, especially getting Chris's little screaming ass in here.
Yeah. I'll say one of my ideas for this show is that I'd really like to give it kind of a movie club atmosphere, so that at the end of each episode, we'll sort of announce what we plan to talk about next. That'll give people at home time to check out the next movie, watch it, and then they can be active in the chat, or, that kind of an open door policy on this show. Friends and acquaintances, if you're into horror, if you like movies we're talking about, everyone's invited to come on. So there's even a chance to come on and be here on the screen. The next movie we're going to talk about, Connor's already watched it. I haven't yet.
Watched it twice.
Twice. I guess he's liking it. It's called The Lodge. It had a brief theatrical run before the world fell apart. It just landed on Hulu recently.
Okay, I was just about to say it sounds familiar.
Yeah, it just landed on Hulu, so it seems like a natural next movie to watch because it's pretty easy for people to get to right now. So I haven't watched it yet. Don't know what my feelings are going to be on it. But next week, I'm thinking next Thursday. I don't know if we've definitively locked in the schedule of this show. But next week, maybe next Thursday, we're going to be talking about The Lodge, which is on Hulu. So if you want to participate in the show, if you want to come on the screen, if you want to be active in the chat, or you just want to see, just want to be able to follow along what we're talking about, go check out The Lodge because that'll be the next film we discuss. I'm really scared.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're going to end the episode now. So sorry I had to pop in and do this.
It was great having you on, as always.
I'd say you earned your place here today. Yeah, man. Thanks for everybody watching who stuck along.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for giving us a shot. It's definitely been a wild first episode. Thanks again, producer of 1BR, Alok Mishra, for coming on. Wow, what a twist. Go check out his film. Come back here. We're always going to be streaming on Facebook and YouTube, so come back here next week and hang out with us and talk about The Lodge. That's been Really Scared this week. I'm Taylor. You can stay spooky, my friends. You can find my Twitter handle there. Follow me there. Connor's is down below as well.
Up top right here.
Yep, we're up there. We're up there as well, so you can keep up with us even outside of the show. One way or another, we'll see you next week. So as my friend said, stay spooky until then.